Welcome to the clubhouse. My name is Alice, and I'm so glad that you've joined us. We've been at this for a little while. 5-in-1 has had a few homes over the years. 3, in fact. Each with its little quirks, and each with its fantastical upgrades. Today's project takes us all the way back to 2007 and our subterranean beginnings in the basement under the flea market. Those of y'all in Memphis remember the one, right there across from the Crosstown building. When we moved to Memphis, we rented out a commercial basement to act as our live-in studio / art space. To see that it was a little complicated to get to is putting it lightly. The journey started with a long walk through a dark parking lot that delivered you to a concrete ramp to descend, and then at the bottom of the hill you would find 3 doors, each a different color, and only one led to us. It was the red one. Or maybe it was the green one. Anyway, back in those days, Social Club was just a sort of Monday night happy hour of creativity. We hadn't figured out how to be a business yet, and so all our workshops had to be made up of junk that we had laying around. Trash, really. A little bit of this glued to one of those, and hey look, now you have a homemade paperweight. Okay, nothing as useless as a paperweight. We do have standards after all. It was an ornamental gravity enhancer. So now, here we are in our beautiful 3rd home on sunny Summer Avenue. We even have windows. Did I mention that that first home was, well, in a basement with no windows? Yeah, fantastical upgrades. So hearkening back to the old days in the basement, what I have to show you today is true to history, actual and for real, throwback workshop. This is, I'm pretty sure, one of the first 6 or so projects that we started doing under the name Social Club. We didn't even call them workshops or projects back then. They were just social clubs. Each of these was based on things we had learned in art school. We'd isolate a tiny component of a process and show our friends how to do something new. For this project, we tapped Michael's knowledge of printmaking processes. He is trained in both country and Western. We dug through the odds and ends left in our wood shop that were too small for anything but the burn barrel. Our friend Joseph from Drive By Press calls printmaking the most democratic art form. There are just so many different print processes. Some, like this one, don't even need any special equipment. And when you're done printing your edition, there are enough prints for everyone to have a copy. And Mama always said, don't bring brownies to the party unless you have enough for everyone. Maybe that was a song. A parable? Yeah, I don't know. Let's just say somebody smart said it. And you too can be smart by descending into your crafting dungeon and gathering some stuff. As soon as you do, I'll quit all my reminiscing and get on to teaching y'all how to make foam rubber stamps. All right, here's your material list. You're gonna need to snatch up some craft foam, crafting knife with a sharp blade, or scissors. You're gonna need some craft glue or rubber cement, wood scraps. I like to use 1x4 scraps, pencil, ink pad, paper. So step 1, our first step is to choose an image to stamp. So I have this guy. You want to make sure your image fits on your wood block, which it does, and that your wood block will fit in your ink pad, which it does. I'm not gonna go real deep into the how-to of this because we made a pro tip video on image transfers. It's short and sweet. Go watch it. So you want to choose a piece of foam that's lighter in color. All right. Now, when making stamps, as with most printmaking techniques, you'll want to make sure that your image is backwards or reversed so that when you stamp it, it's right reading. This little transfer trick does that perfectly. You can see I've already transferred it once. Y'all, I broke my pencil lead. I'm gonna peel up a little bit and check how it's going before I remove that completely. Just using a little pressure on the edge of my pencil here. And ta-da! Backwards! Isn't that awesome? So easy. So, an X-Acto knife with a new blade is the best for this next task, in my opinion, but you can also use scissors if that's what you have. All right, a couple real quick tips on craft knives. This is the sharp part of the blade, the angled part. You want to hold it just like you hold a pencil. I try really hard to hold that blade vertically as I'm cutting. I want my cut to be a 90-degree angle. If I undercut that line, or I'm holding my blade at an angle as I cut, my cut line won't turn out as nicely and my stamp won't last as long. So I try real hard again to always hold that blade straight up and down. Another helpful tip on curves is to, rather than move your body as you cut, to hold your knife in place and move your foam as you cut curves. Much smoother and easier on you. All right, so we're going to cut out our image. We're removing all of the negative space, leaving just our image. I'm actually going to do a quick cut that down a little bit to make it easier to use. Decided to make a thank you stamp because I've been sending out a lot of packages with handwritten notes. Be a fun way to personalize them. Now, as you cut, you want to make sure that you're meeting and joining those cut lines at those corners. So that inner part of the T, I'm going to be real careful that I'm just going to that corner and not cutting any closer. I missed my pencil line there by quite a bit. There we go. All right, so on to the H, I'm going to cut that line, and then I want to make sure that where that cut meets, that I am overlapping those. When you're picking these apart, you don't want to have any little foam bits that are still attached. We don't want to tear the foam, so you want to make sure that you're cutting it all the way through. And see, I'm going a little bit over my lines here. The really nice part of making stamps this way is that because we're gluing individual pieces of the foam onto another block, that if you mess up a part, like I kind of messed up this T a little bit, you can just transfer it again and cut it out until you get it right. This material is really inexpensive, so don't be afraid to do it until you get it right, until you're happy with it. So here we are on a curve, and they can be real awkward if you're trying to move your body around the curve. You see I'm just moving my foam a little bit at a time as I come around the bottom of that. That's going to give me a really smooth curve, much smoother than if I'm trying to manipulate my body around that curve. As I mentioned earlier, we are holding that craft knife as straight up and down as we can so that we get a nice crisp line. All right, so now I'm going to pull that A out, and I can already see I've got a little bit of foam here in this corner that's still hanging on. Now, I pulled it out, which is not the right answer. What you want to do when it's doing that, like this inner part of the A, it's not fully cut, just come in with your knife and remove that little bit. All right, so now you can use, if you'd like, sharp scissors for this. But for fine detail work, a craft knife really is better, as the scissors compress the foam, and your printed lines, honestly, they may not be as precise. But if you're doing this with littles, the scissors really, they work great. So next, I'm not going to cut the rest of that out because it's painful and it's not going that well. So next we're going to glue our little pieces onto our block. I tried a bunch of glues for you today, just a little test piece, and I found that this craft glue works really great. It's my favorite of the glues. Craft glue. There we go. You can always also use the rubber cement. Rubber cement is my go-to. It's my favorite. You can get this from the grocery store if you want. You don't even need, to go to the craft store for that. Now with your letters, one thing you might want to do is draw a straight line. I'm just going to wing it today, but drawing a line where things are going to land can really help get your image nice and tidy. So I'm going to use a brush with this craft glue, and you want to apply the glue to your foam pieces, not the block. And you want to make sure that you're really getting out to the corners. You want to make sure you're getting all of that. Now the foam is malleable, so as I put that down, I'm going to make sure that T is still in the shape that I wanted. So now on to the H. I'm not using a ton of this glue, y'all, but you want to make sure that you're getting it all the way out to your edges so that every little part of this stamp will stick. It's going to help you get a great print out of it, and it'll last longer. I've had some of these awesome stamps that you're looking at here, I've had for years. We used to stamp all our product bags this way. All right, so once you've glued these pieces, we're going to flip that upside down and we're going to weight it with a book. Just on the table is fine. All right, get some of this out of our way. All right, I have some stamps here that I've already finished. The glue is dry. If you'd like to add some texture to your design, it's really easy to emboss patterns using a sharp pencil or a ballpoint pen. You can incise lines or even dots. Super fun. You may have to go over your lines more than once to get it to print the way you want to. but I'm just using a little pressure. I'm gonna draw a little outline on that heart. I really like to do this once my foam is already placed. I find that easier rather than drawing on your foam and then gluing it, but you do you. Both ways will work. I'm just gonna do some dashed lines over here, I think. All right, let's see what that does. So once that glue is dry, we're ready for stamp testing. Yay! These work really great with the ink pads. I do find though sometimes the first try doesn't always print great. So you might need to charge your stamp with ink a couple of times. So I like to have some scrap paper on hand to try the stamps out before I jump into my good stuff. Using newsprint for this, if you have that, lightweight paper is really great for your testing because then you can use it as wrapping paper, which is fun. So I'm gonna press that into my ink pad and I'm just kind of I'm trying to make sure that all of my stamp is touching that ink pad. So that looks okay. I get a little more on there. Let's try that out. I'm pressing firmly with my fingers. I'm trying to make sure that all of that stamp is making good contact. You guys, that looks so good. First try, it's great. So another thing that's really fun to do is you can use alcohol-based markers to color on your stamp and then print it. So I've put some of my green ink on there already, and now I'm gonna come in with this reddish brown and just give some of those letters a little highlight. Let's see, how about the S? And we'll try this T. Let's see how that works. All right, see again, and I'm pressing kind of everywhere with my fingers on that stamp. I'm not rocking it because we don't want to smush the foam. Oh, that's fun. All right, so if you don't have an ink pad, using alcohol markers to just color in your letters completely works great. You can also use a foam roller or a foam brush and acrylic paint. You may need to experiment a little bit to get that consistency right, but it does work. So if you wanted to try that, you can. I don't have a foam roller, so I can't show you that today. You do want to make sure that if you go that route, that you wash your stamps off before that paint gets a chance to dry, because that'll wreck it. All right, let's see how these incised lines worked, y'all. Looks like that needs a little more ink. Ooh, that printed pretty awesome. So you can see my incised lines that I drew with the pencil, and how deep you press, how much pressure you're using is going to determine what those lines look like. So that is another really fun stamping technique. Once you're done with your stamps, it's a good idea to just stamp until they stop printing. And this can be a really fun way to get that silly wrapping paper using your test print and on something lightweight like newsprint. Works great. All right, now I realize you may be thinking that this is going to make all your holiday gift cards super awesome and homemade, and you are right. But what I've shown you today is only the beginning. Just think of everything you could print if you use this here foam stamp technique to make an entire alphabet of your own design. You could make signs for your garage sale, a poster board for that 8th grade science project, branded bags, tags, and boxes for that new product you're working on. Handmade birthday cards are just the beginning of a long and slow decline into printing madness. So I wanted to show you just a couple little things before we go so you can get really nicely detailed work. This is a fun wizard. Whoa, dude. This little guy with his bearded mustache. So that's a great use of those incised lines. Isn't that awesome? Here we have another example of how you can use that texture with those incised lines. These trees are real fun. And isn't this cute? It says, yay, you did it. And we've got the understamp and the overstamp. And if you get them lined up just right, haha, a print. Ta-da! Maybe someday soon, hint, hint, we'll come back at you with some more printmaking projects, like all the fancy tricks to make a multicolored print with these stamps. Until then, this is Alice, signing off from our Summer Avenue Clubhouse. See you soon!